A 1,000-pound statue of Jesus Christ underwater off the First Coast has been uprighted. Part of a popular scuba diving site, the statue had been face down for years.
On June 16th, 2025, about 10:35 a.m. off the coast of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, a group of experienced divers were making their usual descent toward the well-known Christ of the Abyss Memorial, a bronze statue of Jesus lying on the seafloor, placed years ago to honor a local teenager who had died too soon. But this time, something was different. The divers froze. The 1,000-pound statue, which had always rested flat on the ocean floor, was now standing perfectly upright, arms stretched open, eyes cast upward, with no bubbles, anchor lines, or signs of movement. Just a standing monument. As they circled it in awe, filming everything, even they couldn't explain what they saw. This statue had been lying for years. Who uprighted it? When did it happen if no one had ever been there? And most importantly, what hidden message was it trying to communicate?
One thing that was bugging me, he was just face down. It was driving me crazy.
The divers had been there before. They knew what to expect. The site was peaceful, made to honor someone, a young person who passed away in Jacksonville.
Not fall over again.
You know, the ocean has always been a really big part of my family, and my brother was a diver as well.
Emily Leone remembers her brother, John, of Jacksonville, was only 20 when he was killed in a car crash in 2015.
I might get a little choked up.
Shortly after John's death, his father, Jack, his sister, and friend and artificial reef creator, Joe Kistel, helped sink a statue of Jesus to create a memorial diving site.
They placed a bronze Jesus statue there many years ago. Every time divers visited before, the statue had been lying down still and quiet. But this time it was standing.
To be the center point of the reef.
And within a year, that statue was covered with marine life, and fish were all around it.
Here's the Jacksonville Inlet. This is St. Augustine Inlet, and the John C. Leone Reef is right in here.
As one of the divers turned on their camera, the statue stood tall, with its arms open wide like it was welcoming them. Fish were swimming around it, and coral had already started growing on its feet and legs. It didn't look like someone had just moved it. There were no new marks, no fresh anchor chains, or signs that anyone had tied ropes to lift it. And the ocean? Calm. No recent storms or underwater earthquakes. Nothing that could shake the statue into standing. It was balanced just right. The divers didn't know what to say. This was too perfect. It made their heart beat fast, like they were seeing something that didn't make sense. And truthfully, it didn't, because no boats had reported anything strange. But now the statue was up. Could it have risen by itself? Who, if anyone, lifted that statue without leaving a trace?
16, Hurricane Matthew knocked it over. The Leones and Kistel set the Jesus statue upright. 2 years later, more concrete was dropped in the area around the statue, enlarging the reef, making it a hot spot for fish and divers. Later, it was discovered the Jesus statue in 2018 had fallen for the second time, and it's been that way.
The statue they found isn't just any statue. It's part of a long and powerful tradition that spans continents, faiths, and oceans. The original Christ of the Abyss was sculpted by Italian artist Guido Galletti in the 1950s and placed deep in the Mediterranean Sea near the monastery of San Frutuoso. Galletti didn't just want to honor the dead. He wanted to place hope beneath the waves. The statue was cast in bronze, depicting Jesus with arms stretched upward and eyes lifted to heaven. It wasn't just art. It was meant to be a silent blessing for those who lost their lives at sea, including a friend of the artist who died while diving. That original monument became so beloved that several replicas were made around the world. In 1965, one of the most famous copies was installed off the coast of Key Largo, Florida. That version sits atop a 42,000-pound concrete base and lies about 25 feet underwater near the coral reef known as Dry Rocks. Over the decades, it transformed from memorial to pilgrimage site. For many divers, it became something like an underwater cathedral, a place where the ocean became a sanctuary. People proposed marriage there, scattered ashes, said silent prayers. It marked loss, but also peace. Years later, another replica made its way to the waters near Jacksonville, Florida. Unlike the Key Largo monument, this version was far more private. It weighed just over 1,000 pounds and wasn't anchored to a massive base. It was placed quietly at a lesser-known dive site, not for tourists, but to honor a young person who had passed too soon. Some say it was commissioned by a grieving father. Others say it was part of a private church initiative. Either way, it was placed gently onto the ocean floor with no anchors, no fanfare. Just laid to rest, like the one it honored. Divers who visited over the years took photos of it lying on its side, tilted in the sand like someone sleeping. It was peaceful. Coral began to wrap around its base. Fish swam through the arms. Sand slowly collected in the folds of its robe. It never moved. It never stood. It simply rested year after year, unnoticed by the wider world.
1,000 pounds, so you need something that can lift more than that. So we had this giant lift bag that could lift over 1,000 pounds.
So they walked him 50 feet while I'm pulling him.
Over to the culvert or to a stand so he won't fall over again. This Jesus statue, with all that other concrete, has beckoned wildlife and is a favorite for locals.
And yet, those who saw it say that even in that position, it held power. The form, arms lifted, head tilted toward heaven, reminded many of resurrection, of reaching upward after being laid low. Even buried, it seemed to echo something divine. But here's what no one expected, that one day, unannounced and unexplained, the statue would be found upright. Not placed, not pushed, not lifted by any diver. Just risen. Could the statue have ever been tested for hidden damage or weakness? Or did this silent rising mean something beyond anyone's explanation? When the news first broke, many people didn't believe it. But divers who were there said they couldn't deny what they saw. One diver told a local reporter that everything around the statue felt heavier than usual. He said it felt like the water itself had stopped moving. Another diver said he felt something pulsate behind him right before the statue came into view. No one had touched it. No one saw ropes or equipment. They just looked up, and there it was, upright, arms wide, face lifted. Some of the divers didn't speak at all during the dive. They just circled it slowly, filming everything. Photos started spreading online. People began posting before and after shots, showing the statue clearly lying down in older visits. One diver commented in a forum, "There were unfortunately a lot or things going on to not let people get a great shot of him during my dive." Another user asked if maybe a restoration team came in late at night, but no one could name who or when. Some guessed it could have been an underwater construction crew, but others pushed back, saying the seafloor showed no recent disturbance whatsoever. A local priest visited the site a week later and said it felt like a message. He described it as a sign of peace rising from below. Others in the community, especially those who lost loved ones at sea, called it a moment of comfort. One diver even wrote online, "You may get down there and feel very emotional and want to hug Jesus. Don't hug Jesus." A few divers even knelt underwater. Some said it felt like Christ had lifted himself back up.
In Jacksonville's phenomenal, but the problem is it's actually a really big secret. So
Could someone have raised the statue in secret with no one knowing? Or could a spiritual hand have reached down and done what no diver ever could? There are a few ways people have tried to explain what happened. Some sound reasonable, others not so much. But the truth is, none of them fully add up. One idea is that someone restored it covertly. Maybe a diver with the right equipment. Maybe even a local organization who wanted to honor the statue again. It's possible they came overnight or early morning when no one was around. Maybe they planned to keep it quiet, just letting people find it naturally. That kind of reverence would make sense. After all, the statue means a lot to people, especially those who lost loved ones at sea. Giving it a second chance to stand could have been their silent tribute. But if that's the case, why didn't anyone step forward? There's been no announcement, no claim, no local group taking credit, not even a whisper on dive forums or community posts. And more importantly, how could they raise something that heavy, over 1,000 pounds, without leaving behind a single trace? Lifting equipment stirs up sediment. Divers would have needed lift bags, lines, air tanks, and probably a team. There would be drag marks, disturbed sand, impressions in the reef bed, but none of that was found. Just a statue, standing upright and untouched, as if it had always been that way. Then there's the natural theory. Maybe nature did it. Ocean currents are powerful. Maybe a slow, persistent surge shifted it inch by inch over the years. Maybe an underwater tremor, too small to notice, tilted the ground just enough. Or maybe the coral growing along its base finally gave way, and it rolled into place like a coin falling upright. But divers who know the site say none of that makes sense. This isn't loose sand. The statue had rested in place for over a decade. Barnacles had grown across one side. Coral had latched on. Fish had made homes underneath. And most importantly, nothing else around it moved. No nearby coral broke. No sand was displaced. Everything was undisturbed except the statue. Even if the ground shifted, something that large should have left behind cracks or drag trails. But there's nothing, not even a bruise on the seafloor. Just stillness and a figure suddenly raised. So if people didn't move it and nature couldn't, then how did it rise? Yet the last theory is the hardest to explain and harder to ignore. Some people believe something else moved it, something that can't be measured. Divers say the water around the statue shimmered that morning, almost like a glow. A few said they noticed light filtering through the ocean at a strange angle, right onto its face. One man swore he felt warmth like a pulse in the water. A local pastor said the moment reminded him of Christ walking out of the tomb. He said it looked like resurrection, not just of the statue, but of belief. Stories began to surface. Old tales of sailors seeing visions before storms. Divers who said they were guided by lights when in the deep. Dreams about Christ under the waves, just watching. The kind of stories people laugh off until something real happens. Was this statue meant to rise at a certain time? Or did something greater decide it was finally time to stand again?
As for the recent resurrection of the Jesus statue,
I think John was with us helping us. He's crazy about it.
You know, it's serving its purpose as a memorial site, and the reef is a fully functioning ecosystem. Through my brother's death, there's still life.
There's something deeper going on here, something beyond the mechanics of metal and water. Statues don't just stand on their own, not in the ocean, not without help. And yet sometimes they do, and when they do, they tend to mean something. Especially statues like this one. Especially now. In Christian tradition, the image of Christ rising always carries weight. It isn't just symbolic. It's sacred. It points to the core of the faith, that death doesn't win. That what's buried doesn't stay buried. That light breaks through, even under the waves. People gather every year to celebrate Easter morning, the moment when Jesus rose from a grave. But now, in this quiet corner of the Atlantic, something similar played out, not on land, but underwater. Not in ceremony, but in silence. And the image it left behind still stirs the heart. Divers who visit the original Christ of the abyss in Key Largo have said that statue brings them peace. Some leave flowers. Others leave prayers. Many simply float near it, letting the quiet speak. That statue was placed as a tribute to loss, but also a promise of calm after chaos. A peace that passes understanding. This Jacksonville version shared that same origin. It was born from grief, meant to bring healing. It lay in stillness, close to the ocean floor, offering quiet comfort to those who remembered. But now that it has risen, without warning, with no explanation, it feels less like a tribute and more like a sign. A sign that someone or something wanted it seen. Some believe these statues hold prophetic weight, not just as memorials, but as reminders, markers between heaven and earth. In ancient seafaring cultures, especially around the Mediterranean, stories were told of Christ appearing in the waves, calming storms with a glance, walking across the surface to bring peace, or watching silently over drowning sailors. Sailors spoke of dreams just before wrecks, visions of open arms in the depths. These weren't just myths. They were believed with the kind of reverence you only hold when your life depends on something unseen. That old lore still runs deep, even today, especially among divers, fishermen, and those who've lost family to the sea. So when a bronze Christ suddenly stands again, not far from the spot where it was first laid in mourning, people don't just see a statue. They see a sign. And yet, what kind of sign? Is it a message for the world, or something more intimate? Is it meant to stir nations, or just one grieving heart? Now, the statue stands again, just as it did when it was first lowered into the sea. Same posture, same expression, but this time, no one knows how or why it returned to its feet. There was no warning, just divers surfacing with stories they struggled to explain. Still, the questions remain. Did the statue fall long ago and quietly get restored? Was there late-night work that went unnoticed, done quietly by someone who needed it to stand again? Or did the ocean itself, in all its mystery, lift it in peace? There's a more haunting possibility, too. A possibility people don't say out loud unless they're really listening to their hearts. The mystery of the 1,000-pound statue of Jesus isn't just about how it stood, but when, why, and whether it ever truly fell at all.